Well, Kim, not only is the Saudi story changing, but Trump's position on the Saudi story keeps changing hour by hour. It was just early this morning that he said he accepts it, and now he's saying he's having a different tone, obviously because all the senators and the lawmakers are applying pressure. They're not buying it. This story is not adding up. 17 days after his disappearance, they come up with this story. After denying that, that they had anything to do with it or they know his whereabouts. Now they're saying that he died in some sort of fight, one journalist against 15 soldiers. That does not make any sense. No one is believing this. And yes, there's pressure in Washington. 22 senators sent a letter to Trump asking to enact what's called the Magnitsky Act, named after a Russian who was killed while being tortured, basically, which gives a timeline of 120 days for the president to decide whether to add sanctions, to sanction and ban the travel of people involved. The Saudis are involved in this crime.
And Ahmed, obviously midterm elections are coming up. I mean, this, and most people are calling this Trump's biggest foreign policy crisis of his presidency. Do you think it will have any impact at the polls?
Well, Saudi Arabia was his first international trip. He banked so much on this. He keeps bragging about it, how much arms and weapons they're selling to the Saudis. It was such a, we saw it all on television. So he staked his foreign policy based on the relationship with Saudi Arabia, and now it's unraveling. The reformer that Jared Kushner and the Trump administration kept pushing, that this person is going to modernize Saudi Arabia and bring so much reform and so many freedoms. Women were allowed to drive finally, and people were celebrating it. It turns out to be he's just as bad, almost as bad as the leader of North Korea. So killing a journalist on, in Turkey, in the consulate is something that shattered so many of the goodwill that he had built, or this image that he had established here. So definitely this is going to play up in some of the election, and not necessarily the primary, because again, Saudi Arabia is not the most important thing on the minds of the average American, but definitely it's going to impact his national security standings, because again, the Saudis are basically playing Trump for a fool. They're, adding these stories that nobody believes, and somehow Trump is in a hard position. Does he accept their story to save Mohammed bin Salman, or does he actually act like a strongman that he says, America first, and we're not going to be played? So he's in a difficult position, and he doesn't like being
in a really major way. Do you think that's a likely outcome?
Possibly. I mean, it's not only him. He may not necessarily do it, but if he doesn't, Congress can do something called the Arms Export Control Act. Maybe it won't stop it. They have an ability to do it, but and they tried to stop it before. In 1981 and 1986, they tried to stop arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and then that administration did change things, and they changed the package. And in one situation, they canceled the sale. Also under President Obama, they suspended certain missiles being shipped there. But even stalling it would send a strong message, because they apparently, they need these weapons. So using the sanctions and reducing the arms would be stall tactics that they could at least apply more pressure. But the Saudi Arabia needs America more than America needs Saudi Arabia. So it's a two-way thing. And if Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud, wants to save itself, they're probably going to have to start making some changes in the royal court, especially when it comes to Mohammed bin Salman, because there are some people in Washington, especially the CIA and intelligence community, and many people in the foreign policy establishment, didn't think that Mohammed bin Salman is the right person anyway. They preferred Mohammed bin Nayef, and they're kind of stuck with him because Trump forced it on them. But now they have an opportunity to rally and try to put pressure on the administration. So Trump is not finding a lot of allies in Washington that agree with him on Mohammed bin Salman at this point.
Thank you for that. That is TRT World's analyst Ahmed Bedier. Ballot counting is underway in Afghanistan's parliamentary elections. The vote has been marred by violence. Officials in Afghanistan say at least